Welcome to Stock Issues of Policy Advocacy, Part 2, ILL. I know it looks like Part 2, Roman numeral 3, but trust me, those are the letters ILL. This is the second in a six-part series talking about the various stock issues and how they apply to policy advocacy. You should have already watched the overview. This particular presentation will focus on the ill, and then other presentations will follow on the blame, cure, cost benefit, and how stock issues can be used to organize a policy advocacy speech. So again, we're talking about the ill, and you see the wonderfully ill guy over there. Here's another couple that's kind of ill. Other words that we might use in place of ill are the idea of a need, harms, that's more of a debate term, significance, problem. The idea that we're going with, though, is that there is something about the state of affairs that is different than the way that we would like it to be in the ideal setting. That becomes a helpful way of giving you my definition of a problem, and that is that all problems are a violation of values. Now, here in front of you, you have you have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and these are needs that are typically important to various audience members and people in the community and the sort of folks that care about public policy. The chapter on audience analysis and adaptation kind of goes through some of these values and things that people think are important to them. But if we have a problem, we only have a problem to the extent that there is some sort of value that is being violated or some sort of need that is not being met. By definition, that's what the idea of a problem is. So as you think about the problems that your proposed policy are looking to take care of, we need to have that kind of in the first place. How many of you relate to the e-card down there on the bottom? Congratulations on your ability to create drama out of absolutely nothing. You can find this e-card and upload it as a comment to all of your Facebook friends who complain about things. But I think that we can all recognize that there are people in the world that create drama out of absolutely nothing. And at the risk of being far too political, I think that there are times when the Utah State Legislature, or at least members of the legislature, spend a lot of time advocating policies that solve non-existent problems. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's one of the things that kind of is implied by this idea of the stock issue of ill. Before you can convince any of us that a proposed policy is a good idea, you need to show to us that there is a significant problem that exists and that your solution, your proposed policy, will help to alleviate this problem. And again, this problem needs to be significant, and problems can be significant in a variety of ways. One way that problems can be significant is if the problem is intense, if values are being violated to a very strong degree, or if very important values like life and safety and security are being violated. If you can show the intensity of the problem, then your audience is likely to agree that the problem does indeed exist. And this is a sense of qualitative significance, that the need or the problem or the ill is significant in a qualitative sort of way. And we prove this by telling a story or providing an example or oftentimes a significant image with an emotional appeal. All of this is consistent with the idea of intense or qualitative significance. The other dimension is quantitative or widespread significance. That maybe the problem isn't that big of a deal, but when we understand just how many people are suffering from it, then it becomes significant simply because of the vast numbers of people affected. Of course, many problems we experience both intense and widespread significance. I told you earlier that we demonstrate that something's intense because we tell a story. We demonstrate that something is widespread because we have some sort of statistic. And when we have both of these things, now we can really demonstrate the scope and significance and intensity and pervasiveness of a problem. So think about the idea of, suppose I'm trying to talk about some horrible childhood disease. Well, I can tell you the story of the little boy who is suffering from the disease. I can tell you the statistics about the number of children that are afflicted with that disease. But notice that when I do both, that I tell you the story and talk about how there are hundreds of thousands just like this kid, all of a sudden the problem seems more significant. So one of the things that you will need to do in your policy advocacy speech is make the case that a problem exists, that the problem is either widespread because of the numbers, it is intense because of the significance of the suffering, or both. Eventually, however, all of this is going to be given to an audience, and the audience decides whether or not something is a problem. And you can see this phrase up here, audiences care about things that don't affect them. What's your reaction to that statement? That statement is clearly false. No one cares about your personal problems. Oftentimes, someone will advocate for a solution to a problem, and the attitude of the audience is sort of sounds like a personal problem. That's a new phrase that I've been telling my son that he just absolutely hates, but isn't that the case? Well, you have a personal problem, not my problem. Why should I do anything? Problems are not problems until your audience considers it a problem. Can't stress that enough. How can I get my audience to care about a problem? Well, audiences care about problems when the issue or the ill or the need or whatever is going to affect them directly. Most people tend to be fairly self-interested, if not self-centered or selfish. But self-interest is enough to say that, oh, if this might affect me someday, then I probably ought to care. It might not affect your audience, but it might affect people that they care about. So again, I get a number of public policy speeches in my college class about public ed, K through 12 policies. And again, why should a bunch of college students care about that? Hard to say, but if your audience might have parents who have children in public schools, or your audience members have siblings in public school, or they might be parents someday that will have children in public schools. Those are all reasons why, a K through 12 public policy topic may still be of interest and affect a college audience. Again, notice that the advocate kind of has to make that case. And then the third and final thing is when it violates values that are important to your audience. Again, life, health, safety, security, these are all sorts of values where even if I don't feel that they're being violated in my own life, the fact that those are being violated in somebody else's life is significant enough that as an audience member, I choose to care about that. And again, all of these are things that the advocate can and should do in terms of relating the topic to the audience. Why is the problem that you're talking about an actual problem that the audience needs to worry about? So, that's the long and short of ill as one of the stock issues. Check out the other videos to learn about blame, cure, cost benefit, and how we use stock issues to organize a public policy speech.